Okay, so I want to talk about like your love and your relationships with your husband or like people before him. And so one of my first questions is, did you have a love of your life?
Yes, I did have one. He was older too before I even met, but he was grown up and I was a teenager, and I really thought I was in love, you know. But then, of course, being different ages, when we went to schools, I had to go to different school, and when the town I lived, they didn't have high school for a while. Now they have everything. They have music school, and I don't even know what. But that time they didn't. And so that you went through grade school, you had to go in Riga, which is the capital, was 400,000 people, a large city, and there were many schools. And that's one thing that was different in the schools in Latvia. You already went in before you went in college. You went to the schools that kind of geared you to that kind of a thing that you were gonna go into it. Like if you were a doctor, you would have to take the language, you know, and if you were going to be teacher, then you know that was again different, or needed you if you wanted like different languages, then you had to go to a different high school and different school afterwards, different college to learn to be, you know, specifically something, you know, or a doctor for heaven's sakes, yes, or like I said, even teacher. We have teachers colleges, we have specials just for doctors,
Right.
and things like that. So it was quite different and more strict.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I the way I see kids behave in school, that you just didn't do it. You know, I mean, we had one teacher wouldn't come in by class till we were talking after we had a, you know, in between, you know, and he came in. If we were teaching, he would stand by the door like this, and we had to stand up, you know, and the teacher came in and he said, sit down, you know, and it was quiet because he was very strict. There was no such a thing as talking back. I mean, if you were told you're going to have a letter to your father and mother, God help
Uh-huh.
you.
So this first guy, how old were you when you were dating?
Well, we were dancing. There were different dances where there was school. We had the swing was the big deal then. You know, you kind of needed shoes with the heavy rope kind of a, you know, soles, and you wore different things and started to wear makeup. And the first one, well, he had motorcycle, and I don't know. I thought I was in love, but he just, you know, being older than me, he was my brother's, you know, age, and he took me on his motorcycle. We drove in and so forth. I don't even know if he kissed me, but you know, then actually, who one kissed me is my husband.
The first one?
Yes, first kiss,
Whoa.
and then you know, I was only about 16, and he was early 20s. He was with my brothers in that age. He was going to a institute for school teachers. There was also, you're going to be a school teacher, you go to a special college. It's called Institute for School Teachers, and they strictly went. Some only math, some only maybe languages and so forth, geography or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But you went in a specific kind.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, we went walking. I used to in summer or even in winter we had a choir, and if they didn't have enough singers, adults that had the time to go and practice, one of the teachers, he was later on as the head of the school, asked the girls that could sing some if they would come. They had in the evenings they had, you know, like training in not too far in the park. They had a house where they have all sorts of things going on, and we used to go there, the ones that he selected that he needed for voices. Well, could you come, you know, like once or so in the evening for 2 hours or so, the not meeting, the training, you know, like getting song together. And that's where then my husband was in summer staying with he was in the institute for teachers, but he's staying with one girl that also was there, but they weren't boy. There was no affair between them. But she had a farm, and she invited he was brought up in an institute. He never knew what his father and mother was. They gave him up, and he doesn't know who he came from. And but then he started to pay attention to me. And you are 15 or 16, and he's early 20s. You think, wow. And I didn't take it. So at first time he kissed me, and I thought, am I supposed to slap him or what?
And are you talking about your husband? Or?
Yeah.
I thought he was 20 years older than you.
Yes?
Yeah, but you said...
No. Well, he was more. Well, you see, it's hard to when I started to go with those singing things, and all, I was probably maybe 14. I don't know. I must have had enough voice developed that the teacher, asked to go. They needed so many sopranos and so many and that's where he was. And from beginning, he was just like laughing and taking a joke and so nice. And then one of the girls said, he really likes you. He keeps looking at you. I guess I wasn't bad looking. And, then once he says, we were going home, he says, is it okay if I walk you home? And I said, oh, sure, And halfway there, he grabbed me and kissed me. And I was so suddenly that I thought, oh, my God, am I supposed to hit him? Or what, I didn't know what. And then we used to go and sit after that, we kind of talked about his going school. He was very good, though. He didn't, try anything more, maybe put his hand or so, but not really more than a kiss. We sat in the park and kissed after that, And then, we kind of separated because I went to high school in Riga, and he was in school also. I didn't see him much then. I had another boy that I was kind of dating, but not really. I don't know. It wasn't really a big love or anything.
Yeah.
But then you see, I didn't see him till he was very famous, and he was one of the top ones, in the opera house. And I went to the opera ballet school. That's not where you can go if you want to. They have to accept you. They look for your bone structures. They make you, if you have legs that wouldn't fit, to be a dancer, you weren't accepted. It doesn't matter if you could pay or not, So I went there, and then when we were at the opera ballet school, you could go and see the ballets when they were performing anytime when there was open, sometimes in third balcony, or one of those older guys, he's real nice, we called him Old Daddy. He used to be the one that showed the public where to sit, and when he had some free places in front. And after we had exercise where we had to do, we came out, the girls from the ballet, and used to call, oh, my little darling girls. Oh, he says, I have 2 pieces. I think there's nobody in. You'll be able to go there. We were not allowed. We were supposed to go stand only in third balcony. But we could go all we wanted. The more we went, that was better for us. And I did. And then I had a singer that sang in Riga, that was after war, that I went to high school Riga, and she was a singer in opera, and she was looking for a place, and we had one extra bedroom. It was a big apartment, twice as big as this here, and I was only my brother. That was after the war, the Germans were occupied Latvia then, and then I went to high school, and that was a place where were originally making books. They made books even when I was here, a house, the print books, and he was. I saw him, but I didn't really go with him anywhere because I had school and I had ballet. And he was kind of taken. I knew kind of that he liked me, and a couple of times grabbed and kissed me, but that was it. And then I didn't know when the war ended, and I was out there until I went into Germany. I didn't see him till I was living in one of those places with that guy that I was supposed to be his wife, which we got nothing to do. I mean, it was just so I could get in there, and stay. And then we kind of went and was just on a piece of paper. I have the paper, that was divorced. Well, divorced by there was never marriage. But then, somebody said, guess what? Arvid, my son, the ballet dancer, he's going to have it someplace close by or so. The ballet company, not the whole company, part of it. Some went to Australia, some here, but a bunch of them, they gave performances to displaced persons and also to Army, club. I have some when you have time. They're one of the majors of that gave a beautiful letter, thank you letter, and so then he we got together again, and he had been married, but he had divorced already some time ago, and he had no children. And he started to be nice to me, and little by little in Germany, then he one day he came and he says, he wants to marry me.
How did he propose?
Oh, that was nothing much because you couldn't get anything. It was still after the war,
Right.
And you couldn't. I think he did one ring that he melted that he had, and made a ring for our when we got married, a ring for me.
Cool.
Yeah, but we had a very good match. He was elegant. Women ran after him, and he was a dancer. He was one of the top dancers in our ballet was one of the best ballets in the whole Europe. They would for performances. He was in Sweden and different countries around. They gave performances. They traveled and gave. Was 90 some people in the ballet, and it was it was something. The beautiful scenery for the ballets when they opened, the audience went, it was so gorgeous, Some of the books I have, I want, one of these days, I think there's still some that, the one that designed of every opera, every ballet, everything, he had a new, things, draperies and everything, depending what was for the ballet or the opera or so. And he was here. We called him. We sent him an affidavit of that he will not become a board for American, country, that he, in case he can't support himself, his family, then that would be our responsibility to take care of them. We had to sign that. We did 3 families that way, and they all did fine. They came here and got jobs. See, they didn't ask for big jobs and fancy jobs. They grabbed whatever jobs they could, and they were happy. They gone through so much,
That's
and
cool.
some had children. They just needed money.
Wow.
So, but he was very intelligent. He was very cavalier-like. He would never walk in front of women through the door. Always would open it. He like a little old-fashioned in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But I could not do anything bad as far as he was concerned. Somebody made me a compliment to me. Oh, your wife is, I used to make my own dresses, and oh, she's good looking. He says, don't you know, I knew her first. And he was like that. And he was very good father, very good husband, very good lover. So I cannot say anything that I would say, well, it was very hard when he got sick. And then I got older too, and the children gave some problems, and like every family and everything. But all in all, he never was a big drinker. He wouldn't hit a woman. I mean, oh my God, he was brought up to be a gentleman. And that's how he was. He was never go through the door like here and before. Never.
Mm-hmm.
Always held the door. Even you go shopping, he held the door for a woman. Even your that he knew, or somebody was right there, he said, Madam, would you like? That's how he was. He was really a gentleman. And he was, he started too late, you see. He had been already in the school for teaching. And when he started, there was a school started for acting. And he went in there, just, I don't know, he was good looking, tall. And the woman that started, she was an actress, and she started to get together a whole company, And she asked him to come, and he started there. but that's not what he liked. Then Russians first came in. This is after war, and brought their teachers. Now Russian ballet has never been topped. uh, there were, like, French had very good ballet, still have, and some other, but they were really the tops. They were from way back in 1800 or before. They went from Paris and some people and learned there and so forth. And so he was very good, but he was very good because he started too late to be classical ballet, because he was already too tall and couldn't do the leaps and the thing. He was very good as far as feeling and giving a feel, like Don Quixote. One German came, a soldier, to me, and he said he knew that he didn't know about our relationship then, but he said, I have seen Don Quixotes on stages in Paris and London, and I have never seen Don Quixote be like this guy does on the stage. Mm-hmm. He was just, that was natural. He did many different roles. He played wonderful, and he was a good as far as being, for lifting, and Spanish, very character dancing, or mazurka, Polish, or he just had his, like gypsy or anything like that. He just had it in him. Mm-hmm. He was not so much classical ballet with the jumps and the leaps and so, because he was already in his 20s. Mm-hmm. That's too late, to develop.
Yeah.
So, you getting tired? Yeah.
Did you learn anything from being in a relationship with your husband?
Because he was a gentleman. Mm-hmm. Yes, I did, because I learned how fantastic man. You hear that, like, husbands were drunkards and they were drunk and they hit the girl or the woman, or things happen, even when I grew up. And so my father, no, he wasn't a drinker. He had his schnapps once in a while, but he was not violent. He might have yelled at my mother, but I know I could swear, my mother never was. I can't even imagine my dad was hitting my mother or pushing her or doing. They didn't. They argued about things. He says, "You just let that kid get away with all that. Why don't you tell her she can't have everything what she wants?" and things like that. But not like my husband. I mean, and he had too. I guess a little more crash when there was a girl. He had the one picture we have. She's hanging in his arm, like he has the arm like that, and she was little, your mother. He was very good about taking the kids to the Latvian school on weekends. He worked hard, and he was not that young anymore. But he did show me how a good man, a good gentleman, how could be. Mm-hmm. And after that, I was only 46 when he died, and I could have gotten married. As a matter of fact, I had several proposals, I knew I would never want to get married again. Mm-hmm. I had a couple guys that went out, but nobody could beat him. Mm-hmm. He was everything. He was a lover. He was a friend. He was a wonderful father. He was a provider, and he had very good manners. I don't know. I guess being in so early with always that he knew how to treat a woman properly. He never, ran. And I remember once we went in some big banquet, and so I was married to him. But I was, young, still quite young. And one of the guys he was a Latvian guy, but he owned a publisher company, was very wealthy. And he had invited my husband and of course, both of us to come to some sort of a banquet, I don't know. And, he made me sit next to him. And then there were speeches and so, and they were hooray because, the company was doing fine. And all of a sudden, my husband was sitting across, and he grabbed me, pulled me back, and kissed me on my lips. And my husband was there. And my heart just stopped. I said, what's going to happen? And my husband didn't say nothing. He got up and he says, honey, we're going home. And just took me and we walked out. and he didn't make any big thing about it, but he knew, and that guy knew too, that he did the wrong thing. He didn't say anything. We walked out, and he was a big shot. He was a millionaire. Didn't matter. He and we were invited because he was so well known, and so on. I know I made some fancy dress. He grabbed me, pulled me back. I couldn't do nothing, and he just kissed me. And I looked at my husband and I said, "Oh my God, I hope he doesn't come and put a fist in his face or something." He says, "Honey, we're going home."
And then when you guys got home, did you like talk about it, or like why did he kiss you?
He said, "I'm sorry." He says, "I'm sorry that you had to go like that." He says, that shows how you have no yourself any kind of a, what you call, not like you don't
control.
You don't appreciate. You don't that the woman.
Oh, right.
And he had no business. Like he would dance with you, and he'll make compliments, and so I mean there was other women. He always noticed beautiful clothes and so, but everything was in a good kind of way, not rough or anything. He was always a gentleman, always. And then one of the writers had written in a magazine, after the war, and he says Rudolf Saleh was not just a fantastic dancer; he was a fantastic gentleman, and that he really was. He would never walk in store that like we walked together, me and maybe somebody else. He opened the door and let us walk past. He was born with it.
Yeah. Why do you think that man kissed you?
Man hit you?
No, that man kissed you at that party.
He didn't hit me.
No, kiss.
He kissed me.
Yeah.
Oh, he was a millionaire. I was a pretty girl. He thinks he could do what he wants, and everybody thought it was fantastic, I guess.
Mm.
Although in Latvian, if you had some kind of a serious business, kissing just like that between is okay.
Mm.
Even like a birthday or something, but not grabbing and pulling you over and
Right.
really.
Mm.
I mean,
laying one on you.
Yeah. Well, I was sitting next, but he just pulled me back.
Mm.
And I was so, I didn't know what to do. I thought I was going to hit him, and I thought, no, I can't do that. If that would have been just anybody, I would have smacked him.
Mm.
But, he I don't know. He was born with it, and yet he was a poor guy. He never saw his dad. He was 18 months old when his dad died from First World War.
Your husband?
What?
Who are you talking about now?
My husband.
Okay.
His father died when he was 18 months old. He doesn't remember his father. His mother had 4 children that she had to raise. She worked very hard. She was left with 4 kids. And then he says he was a teenager. They had a little garden away from the apartment where they rented. She was working in factories, I guess, wherever she could make money to feed them. There were 3 boys and a girl, but the girl died she's a beautiful woman. Your mom has a picture. She only had 1 girl and 3 boys. And they were all good. One was a photographer, professional. And one was, I think, some scientist. I don't know, really. They were, like I said, and he was the youngest. And they had a little garden away from where they lived, and he used to go there and water at night. And then also, when they started to grow things like carrots and whatever, potatoes, and maybe then he had to go and sleep. There was a little hut because otherwise people came at night and took it. It was a garden for people that lived in town that didn't have where to grow, that the city gave them a little piece of land. But he had a hardship. He wasn't brought up to be a such a gentleman. He was just that's what he was. Everybody thought very highly of my husband when they met. He did never use dirty language in front of women, and he never was, always never sat down first before he let, pull the chair and let the woman. It was natural with him. He just did it. And then if there was young people, young women, and some older ones, he always said, "Hello, madam, you first," you know. So he was really, and yet I said he didn't have any dad that taught him those things or anything.
That's impressive.
Yeah. My father was okay. My mother, I don't think my father ever would have hit my mother. That's one thing that just wasn't accepted. But he was sometimes yelling at my mother and telling you getting that kids to get away with everything and things like that, I mean, and he wasn't. Well, he had 4 years of schooling like that, 4 years, and he learned a fantastic keeping of figures. Than my brother was already studying, taught him how. He was his very nice handwriting. To Eggles has one card. When Eggles was born, he wrote, "Just dear Eggles," to Eggles the card. But my father wasn't nearly as nice as I don't know. They lived together. There never was any big fights fights about house and housekeeping and or doing something here or there. They never fight. Disagreements more than fights. He was good. My mother had she could go do practically what she wanted within reason. But neither one of them had another. I know, I used to tease him when I was older. I was in high school. He used to go, men went to the beauty salons to have not just haircut, they also had the chin. My dad was getting kind of bald, but he went once a week and had his beard shaved. And I think he liked that woman. She rented from where my dad owned that building, and she rented that shop where she worked. And I used to, when I was older, I teased him. I said, Papa, Daddy, you just like her, don't you? And he said, sure I do. I mean, but I don't think either one of them had any. If it was maybe a kiss. Somebody kissed them somewhere, or she did. I don't know, but not like going and having another one.
So, if you could give any advice for couples, like for me and like my relationship with Ben, what would your advice be?
I think respect each other and be, respect each other and try to please a little bit, the other person, not like wife will be like a sardine laid down and the man walks all over. And no, not like that. We had a shoemaker and his wife was pregnant every year, and she had to have the woman, not the doctor, what do you call those women that take children and can get children out? She had to have the abortion every year because he got drunk and then he attacked her and made her pregnant. Yeah. And then the last about the girl, the woman that she was practicing. What do you call those? They're not doctors, but they receive the children.
The nurses?
Yeah, like nurse, yeah, but strictly for especially in farms, and so they couldn't go to any hospitals, or so they had those women come and they knew how to get the child if you had a bridge or something wrong or something like that to a certain extent. But some of those men were just vulgar, and when they drank, and then not everybody beat their wives, but a lot of them did, and if they didn't want to have sex, they would. My husband would never force that. He would try, nicely to get, whatever, to our relationship, but he would never. I had a great respect for him, and I was always proud of him. He was always a gentleman wherever he go. I never had, like I said, the only time I remember that jerk that kissed me and made him feel bad, and he wouldn't have done anything. He wouldn't have gone and hit him or anything. No way. He was a gentleman. He just got up and says, Sidra, come on, we're going home. That's not my name.
Yeah. Okay.
But no, I think it is the character. Even some kids I know that grew up in terrible circumstances where the father was a drunkard and they heard foul language and all sorts of things, and they turned out fine. They didn't go that same ways. Not everybody, but some you think they have been brought in the highfalutin families where they have everything set the table and everything has to be just so, and expect the wife always to have not too much of this and makeup or what, and be presentable and all that and this and that, and then you hear later on they were real schmoes. And they got a few drinks and they get upset or something, or you maybe smiled or some guy made you compliments or paid them too much attention, they beat you up. So my husband would never. He would. That just wasn't. That just wasn't. That wasn't it.
That's cool.
He would speak with me, and said now something like the kids do. Now there is a line. I can get very angry, and I didn't want to hear that because he could got really really angry. But I didn't. He didn't really. Once the kids maybe got a little when they were little, but once they were teenagers or even upper classes, grade school, they never were hit. Never. Oh, being punished, you staying in for you're not going now to this and this basketball thing or whatever. Yeah, if they were really, but hit, no. Like I said, maybe little thing when they were little, they needed it too. I maybe did more than he did. I was tired and I was upset, and then they started to work, work up, they couldn't take it, But I mean, none of the kids are really beat, no. It just wasn't. And it's interesting, my parents either, they were farm people, they grew up, although my grandfather and grandmother, my grandmother, I think, my mother always said, you more like your grandma. Grandfather was a nice, smiling little and they didn't have much money and but he was, I know he would have never be, they had only three children. The Uncle John, that was musical, so talented, and he was almost blind, born. And the teachers at school said, oh, you have to have him learn music. He's just so talented. He said, we can't. The money we make, we could just make to keep the farm going. There is no way we could afford to send him. He used to listen to music, used to be a big
record,
horn, and then he put the record down flat, and he used to listen once, and he took his violin. I have a picture there where he's playing. He could play immediately.
Who is this?
What?
Who are you talking about?
That's my mother's brother. They only were 2 children. I think one was died, when was born or already young. They were all sicknesses that now are, it's not in anymore. It's not, it's out. That took a lot of kids, they had, and my mother was young and living in the farm, My mother, once, my grandmother, she had a growth here, a big tumor. She got a buggy and drove to the doctor. It was like 10 kilometers. She drove, the doctor cut it all out, and she says, who's take you home? What do you mean? I take myself home. Went up in the buggy, sat in, and drove home 10 miles, 10 kilometers. Was a big fun. That's how, because you see, they had to, when they were little already, they had to do things, in farms especially. There wasn't so much, like we do with our kids.
Right.
You clean that room, or I used to yell. Oh. Not Chris. I don't think Chris got yelled at. Ask her, your mother. I don't remember. She thought that Dad was strict, but I don't think Dad I mean, if he would have catch you and hold you a little tighter, that would be. Then he was really mad. I know once he was mad. She was a teenager and she was allowed to go with some bunch of girls and boys with a car, and she was supposed to be home, and she didn't come till a couple hours late and didn't call. And I know my husband took her arm and she says, "This is the first one, and this is the last one. Do you understand?" Yeah, yeah, yes, Papa, yeah. And she knew she better not. He was very strict as far as that. Some things, like he didn't like kids acting up when they were adults and adult party, and kids were, you know, go and laugh and do, acting up. They were maybe 7, 8, 9 years old or so, not grown up. He would not allow. He says if your kids don't know how to behave, they're not going. I mean, not that they be like they couldn't talk or couldn't do, but within the reason that they knew that they go in and an older person came, they knew they were supposed to get up and have the older person have to take the chair. He was, like I said, he was a gentleman. He would never even think about twice. Somebody came in and there was no, chair. He would be right away up. That's how he was. He had some temper too, and then he was getting crabby when he was sick, but he was really sick. He had those attacks. It was awful. I had to take him for a long time to Presbyterian Hospital, and then I had to go and take park. No, I had the car, but then I had to take him with a wheelchair upstairs where they did some whatever they did. Took a couple hours, and then I came down and took the car and parked. It was a parking a while, and then when he was done, I had to go get the car and go again and get him out in the wheelchair. He couldn't walk anymore, and take him home, drive him home, and so it wasn't a terrible shock when he was gone, but it was kind of hard, sad. And he was getting impatient, not nasty really, but impatient. He couldn't do things, and so it was hard. But the kids, like I think that my oldest son was gone, and I think your mother might have been. She was out too, working in summer, with other girls and stores or wherever they could get, because we didn't have that much money. You know, kids grow up, they want this and they want that,
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it's hard to say how you can tell. It is hard to say. The one guy that I used to know, he had a motorcycle, and that's one like you have a young guy, and he's the first one to get a fancy little sports car or something. This is how motorcycle. Nobody where I lived you had a motorcycle. And he took me for a ride, but we had no affair or nothing, I don't even think he ever tried to kiss me. But he took me, and I was like, everybody was looking, oh, look at her, she's on the motorcycle, and with him, And, but we didn't, we just went for a ride, and, there was so much dust in the roads, and, but, I was thought that was something.
Oh, that's cool.
But so, how are you getting along with that? Anything that bugs you?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
How's his dad?
His dad is a super polite man.
Is what?
Really polite.
Mm.
And he's a really good listener. He'll listen to you for hours. And he knows, like, what's kind of